seconds and you just watched me stare at a screen for a second. Here to chat about tonight's episode of Arrow, entitled Starling City. I think we're live. Let's see. Yeah, I think. Anyways, it's entitled Starling City, and it is episode 1 of season 8, which is the final season, which is really exciting, sad, but mostly exciting. I just tweeted the link to this, and I have to copy it and untweet it and try tweeting it again because I left in season finale from last year because I copied the tweet from each episode over, and it's the season premiere. Did it feel like we'll get to the initial question, but of rating it and everything. To you, did it feel like season premiere? Okay, there we go. Did it feel like a premiere of a season to you, or did it feel like a continuation? Did it feel like a special event series? What did this feel like to you? Because to me, and it's not that I disliked it, it just didn't feel like a season premiere. It felt like the beginning of maybe a crossover event series type of thing. I think the fact that it's a shorter season plays into it. The fact that last episode felt like a finale plays into it. And then the fact that it all kind of surrounded this alternate universe, time travel, universe travel, whatever situation makes it feel like a special episode, because that's a lot of times what this universe does for special episodes is they will have some sort of time travel, aliens have invaded, blah, blah, blah. We're getting to see alternate universe versions of people, whatever type of situation. I see in the chat, or he says, from Stormy, she says, it didn't feel like a premiere, just a build up for the crisis. Yeah, that's really what it felt like. Now, I will say, while it didn't feel like a season premiere, and I'm not really sure, you could argue that it wasn't a season, I changed my tweet, it says season premiere now, but you could argue that it wasn't. It did feel like Arrow content. So I'll give it that. It did feel like Arrow. It didn't feel too much like a crossover. They did have mentions of characters from other shows, like you had mentions of Cisco, and you had the Monitor, which is technically Arrow first character, but it's really just building up to the crossover, blah, blah, blah. But overall, I would say it did feel like Arrow content. Now, let's get into the ratings before we get into anything. We've had more than enough intro. As you're joining, rate the episode on a scale from 1 to 5. I really like doing this. I think the more I've done this, the more I've seen kind of value in doing this. I really like having that initial rating of what it felt like right after the episode, because a lot of times for me, and I think for other people as well, you watch the episode and then you start consuming everybody else's thoughts as well, which I think is such an important part of the TV viewing process. But in doing so, it's not necessarily that it will change your opinion, but it can start to inform your opinion. You start to get more than just your initial thoughts and feelings. And I think having that idea of what were your initial thoughts and feelings right when the episode just aired, 14 minutes ago, and no matter how fast a reader you are, you haven't really read all that much. What did you initially feel? What did you initially take away from it? And then you start consuming, your fellow story listeners' thoughts. So, jumping into the chat, Brian Perez says, it felt like Arrow without being Arrow. That's really simplistic, but I totally agree. That sums it up perfectly. Stormy says, I agree with Steven. The Arrow ended in season 7, and she said she'll give it a 3 out of 5. Of course, lacking the heart of the show, Felicity hurt, but she was mentioned a lot. Yeah, I mean, for her being gone, they sure put her in there. And I get it. I would too. And she's very recently gone as well. She left in the, finale. And you still have her husband, her daughter, her son, all of her teammates, her best friend / brother. You've got all of the pieces of her there, that it just kind of makes sense to mention her and to have pseudo Felicity in the alternate universe and all of that. And I think they did her justice. And it's not something that I, as a viewer on the outside of the show, have any sort of um, ill feelings to anybody involved, because she wasn't like killed off or fired. She's pursuing other projects. She's doing a lot of stage work and whatever. They didn't really have a chance to keep her, or they would have. And so in that absence, they're doing sort of their best. And it frankly just makes business sense to mention her a lot, because I still saw her as one of the most mentioned characters on my timeline without her ever being on the show. Carrie says, I may be alone, but I rate this episode a 5. I'm all in. Carrie, that's a high rating. That's a lot of positivity. I'm not going to give it a low rating. I think for what it was, it's approaching a 4 at least. There were some moments that really did kind of blow me away. I love the scenes with Oliver and Susanna Thompson, his mother, fantastic. I think the motivation behind Tommy, with him being so, stricken by Thea's death, was brilliantly done, and bringing him back was smart. And this whole approach to building the family back around Oliver, since they don't have his wife with him and they don't have his children with him, and they're having to reconstruct the Queen family from the start, I think that was really smart. And I loved the scene where Diggle comes, and Diggle knows that he's from the other universe. He doesn't know that Diggle knows, and so they have that whole. That was really, really well done. I think I mentioned I feel like Dempsey was carrying this show on his back at that point. That was a really well performed scene. So there were moments, and then Future Team Arrow, or Arrow 2040, I think is what they like to call themselves. They're so cute. They're so pretty. They're definitely young, but that is absolutely the nature of this network. And I thought they were a little cheesy, I will say. They were a little cheesy. They were a little teen intense. But again, that's the nature of these types of shows. That's the nature of comic book shows just in general. And I think Mia in particular did such a good job. You can see far and away that she's kind of going to be the one carrying this. It makes sense that she's the one out of all of this getting a spinoff. Kat McNamara's done a really great job with all of that. All the rest of them were fabulous as well too, but she's got sort of that, I don't know, stage presence, star power, the whole thing going for her. Let's see in the chat. Kate Johnson says, I liked it as a piece of entertainment. Felt like an episode that was supposed to be some benchmark or crossover episode. Once again, that's really well said. That is exactly what it felt like. Like it was this interim piece where it's not necessarily falling into a particular season, but it's a special episode of what would happen if Oliver had to do this for Monitor. Kate also adds that she's giving it a 3.5 out of 5. She says it was fun, but it's mainly fan service, fan fiction, stacked with plot holes. Felt like a pre-crossover episode. Yeah, really well done. Really well said. And there were moments of that fan service that I thought were lovely, right? Seeing the kids, the 2040 team, lovely. Seeing Oliver and Diggle interact in this whole little like bro moment in another universe, fantastic. All of that, great. But did it feel like a full season of Arrow? No. Did it feel like even a full plot? No, not really. Stormy adds, how accurate is it to have Renee and Dinah being evil and Earth 2 in line with what I felt about their characters for seasons? Absolutely feel that both of them are like lean towards evil. I would argue that Renee was by far and away a villain in Earth 1. Oliver's reactions to Tommy and his mom tugged at my heartstrings. She goes on to say, having to lose them again broke my heart for him. The future team was great. We don't need to add Dinah and Black Siren to that spinoff, just not needed. Of course, Felicity made sure Diggle was there to help Oliver. Loved all their scenes. Yeah, I love that Diggle specifically mentions Felicity quite a lot. You see that their, friendship carries over, and you feel her presence through Diggle. And I think that once again, it was really impressive just to see that delivered so convincingly from him. It's like it wouldn't even occur to them to not assume that Felicity was there behind them, a voice in their ear, if you will, throughout that. You have Felicity in Mia's ear as well, likewise in the future. Let's see. Brian says, I would give it a 3 as well. The callbacks were nice and all, but it was okay. Not really as good as a true season premiere. Loved that first scene though. Yeah, I liked the that initial introduction and the monitor's monologue there about heroes. I thought that was interesting, and it kind of set the stage for what we're going to see as one possible opinion on heroism. And I think we're going to explore kind of some other ones throughout this, and that will be part of Oliver figuring out what his legacy really is, and this whole, cheesy but kind of interesting idea of what a hero really is, I guess. I think that was what made it interesting to see some familiar characters be villains, or even if, I've sort of made the argument that this person or that person was a villain before, see them really embrace being villains a little bit more. Even Tommy, even, Renee, whatever, seeing them go that route, seeing characters like Merlin in this alternate presentation where they're not villainy in the same way that they were in the other universe, but they still have those tendencies. And it brings us back to sort of what Oliver is. What Oliver was represented was someone who was scum at one point, still is terrible from time to time, but is working towards something different, working towards trying to protect or defend or stop bad things from happening or cause good things to happen. He's working towards something that is not necessarily innate to him. He doesn't have as much of a good foundation to him as a character like, I would say Felicity has a good moral compass, but not in like a no-kill or pacifist way. I would say, referencing, I guess, characters on other shows, Caitlin and Joe West on The Flash are good examples of characters that have some fundamental goodness to them, where they're working towards heroism in a way that they're working towards the best in themselves. And I don't think Oliver is in that position. He's working towards heroism in a way that he's working away from the worst in himself. I think that will be kind of interesting to unpack and explore if they determine that that's what they want to go for. Ben Levine says the role reversal for Tommy and his dad was trippy. Yes, I thought that was fun. Brian says that reminds me of the essence of heroism is to die so that others could live, from Dr. Ivo back in season 2. Good callback. And I think that especially for Oliver and the darkness of this show, that's really true. Stormy says, if you put up how Oliver is acting compared to Barry, it's night and day. Barry messes with the time again to see if his own death can be prevented. Oliver steps up to save everyone, even if it means death. Yes. Kate says, I loved Adrian in season 5, and it was fun to see him again, but there was zero plot reason for him to be there. He was so, like, Kate, you were sort of, he was so clearly just there because he was a popular character, a popular villain, that they were able to get back. And I'm not even complaining. Like, yes, we all thought think Josh Segarra was great. He is. He's fantastic. He's charming. Like, he is someone that you want to work with. He, he's been to lots of conventions. I think probably everybody who is a fan of Arrow has like met him or whatever, and he's like the one person where it's like, I hate men, right? He's like the one person where it's like, he's not a terrible man. Like, he's so fun and charming. Like, I get why we're giving this guy a job. Like, you want this guy on set with you again. It did not make sense for him to be there in the plot. Not complaining, but it did not make sense. And the character that they tried to give him, like, didn't even flow that well. Like, literally just bring back Prometheus and, like, hand wave away why he's there and you'd be better off. But I get it. I do. Not knocking him. He's great. Anyways, what else? Oh, Stormy's comment about Barry. Yeah. So listen, the thing with Barry's approach to heroism has always come down to him putting the good of one over the good of many. And his worst moments are when he puts the good of one being himself, over the good of many. But sometimes he puts the good of one being like his late mother back in season 1, over the good of many. And it's like he's trying to go back to save or say goodbye to his mother, which he doesn't do either. And in doing so, puts the entire family that has actually raised him at risk, and people die, right? Barry's approach to heroism is always, I'm going to burn the world for this one person. That's an approach to villainy. And I say this all the time in contrast to Arrow, in that Oliver's approach is, I'm going to burn the one being myself, for the good of many. That's heroism. And heroism, in this case, in Oliver's case, doesn't even mean that he's a good person. We have many instances of Oliver being a terrible person, especially in micro ways. Like, he has not always been good to women. He has not always been good to his family. He has not always been fair when he's mad. He's not always been nice when he's mad. There's a lot of instances where I'm like, this is not always a great guy. But when it comes down to his morals, he's always willing to say, I'm not the best guy. I will die so that people who are better than me can live. Barry doesn't quite get there. And that's the one thing I appreciate about the dichotomy of these two shows, is you can look at something like Barry and say, he cleans up and, has a brightly colored suit and makes jokes and laughs and is clean shaven and all that sort of stuff. So this must be the hero, right? And even more of a hero than Oliver, because on some surface level, in these easy human interactions, he's nicer, right? He might be nicer when ordering a coffee, and he may, get more thoughtful gifts for his family at Christmas, or, whatever it may be, these micro interactions. But in the grand scheme of things, when it actually comes to doing something big, he will not die for anyone. He is not willing to kill for anyone. He is not willing to, he let a Nazi go free. That's not heroism. He let someone go free who will then go terrorize an entire universe because he didn't want to live with the burden of killing someone. Oliver is always willing to live with the burden of whatever the tough decision may be. He's always willing to take that on himself and be the, bad guy in order to help somebody else. Anyways, I'm gonna hop off my little soapbox there. Carrie says his most important reason for Chase being there is name dropping bats. Yeah, name dropping Bruce Wayne on a Sherlock Holmes quote. I thought that was funny. Story says Barry Allen is selfish as hell. He's told every season, stop messing with time, it has consequences. They refuse to have own crap. It's annoying. Yeah, I really should stop contrasting Arrow to Flash, because I don't know that anybody even watches Flash anymore. But anyways, that's fine. I'm already almost over time. Do you guys have any favorite moments from tonight's episode that you're walking away from this, and as your final thought when you're thinking, I'm just like flicking my hair everywhere, as your final thought when you're thinking back to sort of the season premiere of season 8 or of special season DVD Blu-ray special, whatever, that stood out to you, that you feel are sort of the favorite, like, oh, I'm glad I did watch this live. This was worth watching. This one scene was really good. Do you have any like that? For me, it was the Diggle and Oliver reuniting in the other universe scene. I thought David Ramsey, first of all, acting fantastic. His acting quality is so far and above CW's typical. They are so lucky to have him. And the chemistry that he and Oliver have, their little bromance type of thing, really well done over time. And I often get annoyed about bromances, like just to rag on another CW show, I get annoyed with things like Supernatural, where it's all about it. The bromance can kind of read as like it's us boys club and no more. Oliver and Diggle are never like that. They never like that. and their dynamic is one of this sort of mutual respect and appreciation, but it's not like excluding everybody else, and that's what sort of defines their club. It's this like shared history and shared morality, and they play that really, really well. Carly K says, "No, girl, that was a great soapbox. You can stay up on there." Oh, thank you, Carly. Kate Johnson mentions it should be read. Oh, that was such a good scene. Like, Kate, I know you mentioned some of this is fan service, which absolutely is, but that moment, I was like, yes, give me that fan service. That was another one that was, it should be worth watching. Carly K says, in terms of what's worth watching, she loved Future Team Arrow. I love Future Team Arrow too, and I would absolutely watch a spinoff of just then. Stormy says, Diggle telling Oliver he isn't going to just let Oliver go into that quiet night. He's going to fight for his brother. Stormy also says she loved William saying fate brought the OTA kids together just like it brought their parents together. Oh, yes. It was a good moment. There were a lot of good moments in tonight's episode. Carrie says the hall fight with Big, Ollie, Laurel, Chase, and crew, and the Team Arrow 2.0 fight, they were both brutal. The fight scenes were pretty brutal in tonight's episode. That is very true. And they were good. And then it ended with that Thanos snap, which it was like, at first when I was watching it, I was like, they really just pitched the end of this season premiere to be the Thanos snap. They just went there. The year is 2019. Anyways, so at first I was like, that's kind of cheesy and weird and obvious and copy whatever. But then I was like, this is the CW, this is DC. They knew everybody was going to immediately be like, oh my god, this is the Thanos snap all over again. And they're doing it for the buzz. Like, it's sort of like that Riverdale level of outrage. So I'm going to let them live on that. They knew what they were doing. They knew that as soon as they did that, you're going to have a million people just like me immediately being like, it ended with the Thanos snap. And that's just going to get people to talk about it, going to get people to watch it. They're going to get their clicks and their engagement. They're going to be just fine. So I thought it over, and now 33 minutes later, I've decided that that was actually a smart move to end the episode that way. I will give them their props on that. Well, that concludes tonight's discussion of the season premiere of Arrow Season 8, but kind of not the season premiere of Arrow Season 8, because it's kind of just the beginning of a special series leading up to the death of Oliver. I nonetheless will be here, same time, same place, every week for the remaining 9 episodes of this show that apparently did not end in May of this year. Who knew? And apparently won't end after this, because we're going to have a Felicity, Smoke's daughter, and friends spinoff, which I have no doubt I'll be watching as well. So, same time, same place next week. I will see you guys there. Bye-bye.